Whitelee represents to me an economic, a social and an environmental opportunity that we need more of.
I've known about it for a good few years.
It's a cracking space for her to run around.
Whitelee Windfarm to me is a really special place. It's a place where you can see clean green energy being produced alongside effective nature conservation measures.
So it's an opportunity for city folk like myself to get out into the country and really enjoy the fresh air and the beauty and the aspect of this.
Whitelee was one of a small group of wind farms that in the early 2000s Scottish Power decided to go out and prospect for and start the development process across Scotland. Whitelee itself, the construction started in 2007 and by 2009 we had Whitelee 1 up and running, so it's a great site. Right in the south side of Glasgow, got all the characteristics that we would look for in a wind farm in terms of the land that was available and that we could engage with the landowner on, the wind resource, the proximity to a demand centre, and engagement that we'd had with communities and the response that we'd had from them. So Whitelee covers an area roughly about the size of the city of Glasgow, so that it's a big area to cover, and within that we have 215 wind turbines generating 539 megawatts worth of electricity. So to give you a sense of what that means in terms of output and how we use that power, it's enough to power the city of Glasgow, so around about 350,000 homes. Great to see that that power is used on the doorstep of the power station and it's clean and green and supporting a city of that size. Power stations typically were not a place where people would go. People had a desire to go and visit, engage with, learn about. That's what makes Whitelee and onshore wind different. Whitelee itself is a huge area. We developed an accessibility strategy when we were developing it as well. We constructed this wonderful visitor centre that we're standing in, and it's meant that people have come along, engaged with learning about what was at that point a new form of generation and really embraced that technology. And we have a lot of visitors that come. So every year we have around about 250,000 visitors. And sometimes we even hold family days, and it's a special event that we'll have people along to. And the last one that we did, 7,000 people visited the site in one day. It was a big birthday party for this site. It was celebrating its 10th birthday. And with 7,000 people at this site, it doesn't feel like a power station. It feels like a country park. So back in 2007 when we were starting construction, this was the largest civils construction project in the whole of Scotland. So that takes in motorways, other infrastructure, railways, everything. This was the largest construction project in the whole of Scotland. So if you get your head around that, you can then imagine some of the challenges that we had, especially when we were talking about new technology. So in terms of challenges, it was about location, it was about delivering brand new technology, it was about understanding the topography that we were working within. Another big challenge that we had is aviation. Now sometimes people say, well, what do planes have to do with wind turbines? Well, the tip of a blade moves roughly about the same speed as an aircraft flying through the air. So if a plane is coming over a wind farm, the radar has an issue in discerning whether it's a plane or the tip of a blade. So what we had to do was create a radar solution that would fill in that blank. So we invested in new technology, we invested in a radar solution that would give the radar aviation controllers the information they needed so that everybody could enjoy the clean power but also fly safely.
Whitelee is located on a flat plateau area, and this combined with the cold and wet conditions make it perfect for the formation of peat. Peatland is important for biodiversity, supports a wide range of flora and fauna, many of which you only find on peatlands and a number of which are in decline as well.
So in terms of understanding, for any site, in terms of understanding what we need to do, we tend to do a lot of survey work. We want to understand the ecology and the environmental aspects of any site before we go on. To understand what habitats are important, what species are important on the site, what we're working with. So we have a number of species of birds like curlew, who they're very important to what goes on here. And then we've also got the peatland, so two very important environmental characteristics. So peat is obviously a very valuable carbon store. We wanted to minimise the disruption to that carbon store, and so as a result, all of the roads on the site are floating, so that we can maintain the natural flow of water underneath the site so that the peat can continue to do its job and that the flow country effectively remains intact. But this site afforded us an opportunity to go a step further. We were able to rehabilitate some of the peatlands. So previously, perhaps where there'd been forest plantations, for example, of non-native species, they were sucking up the water, disturbing the peat. We've been able to rehabilitate that peat through very novel practices that we investigated here at Whitelee and have then been able to use at our other sites as well, just to enhance that carbon storage capability of the peatland and also regenerate the natural habitat that the species on the site enjoy.
So as a responsible developer, we aim to try and avoid as many ecological impacts when we are building and operating our wind farms as possible. We also strive to deliver net gain for biodiversity wherever possible on our sites, whilst also mitigating any effects that the wind farm may have had. The footprint of the infrastructure at Whitelee is approximately 97 hectares. So we developed a habitat management plan which covers an area of 2,500 hectares. So you can see this is quite a large net gain for peatland habitat and also a net gain for biodiversity as a whole. Due to its large size, it was an ideal site for us to undertake some trial studies to try and develop some new innovative peatland restoration methods, as well as refine the existing methods that we already had. And these methods that we've developed are now used across the industry and beyond.
So I think for us, what we'd learned as a utility operator was that communities are very important wherever you locate your investment. So from a very early stage, we had a proactive approach to engaging with communities, hearing them, listening to them. So Whitelee itself, although it's to the south of Glasgow, sits across 3 different local authority areas. So it's been important for us to engage with those local authorities, the communities that are near that, the towns and villages that are close to that as well, to make sure that their voices were being heard. Probably most surprisingly for this site, we received single-digit number of objections to this site, which were all then manageable and something that we were able to address any of the objections that came through. I think that engagement, that prior discussion, meant that Whitelee was actually accepted very early on. We wanted to develop an accessibility strategy. This was peatland, it was moorland, fairly inaccessible because of the boggy nature of the ground. It was very soft underfoot. You couldn't readily come out here and enjoy the open space, the fresh air. And what we did was we developed an accessibility strategy to try and understand what did the local community want from this site if we were to develop it. So we've got an extensive network of tracks and paths. They're used for all sorts of activities, whether that's running groups, walking groups, mums pushing a pram, dog walkers come here very often as well. But we've even had husky racing on the site and all sorts of things.
I think it gives a fantastic open plan area to walk, to run, to really appreciate nature. I think it's a really powerful display of, I suppose, sustainability. Actually, I find it quite an interesting architectural landscape with the huge windmills on it. It's a good way of bringing the kids around and educating them a bit about wind power and sustainability as well.
The facility we're standing in just now, the visitor centre, is also unique in terms of the rest of our portfolio. This was about at this stage, educating people about what was wind all about, and we've continued to tell the story of renewables, not just onshore wind, but renewables at the visitor centre. The visitor centre has had over 880,000 visitors coming through its doors in the last 12 years, and we've had the privilege of hosting over 46,000 school children so that they know what wind generation is all about and what part they can play in the race to net zero and enabling the energy transition. As part of the engagement strategy that we have, we contribute to voluntary community benefit funds, and we've done that across a number of our sites. Here at Whitelee, to date, we've distributed over £12 million. Now that's £12 million that goes to the communities, and they then elect to use that and utilise that money for whatever they need. In the past, that maybe meant football strips for the local team, or a church roof, or something that needed replaced or regenerated. Now we're working with communities to help them on their journey to net zero. So whether that's the installation of EV charging points, improving the broadband in an area, we're trying to give them some support financially and through giving them an idea of how that money can be best used as they go on their journey to make their better future greener as well. So in terms of what's next for us, within the UK, we're going to see a doubling of our electricity demand between now and 2050. What that means for us in terms of renewables is a quadrupling of the amount of renewable generation as we take fossil fuel generation out of the system. For sites like Whitelee, that means we need to do more, make sure it's cost effective, and have those sites coming through the planning process, going into construction and happening sooner. Now that can't be back-ended to 2050. We need to start that process today. So in terms of what we're doing, we're enhancing our portfolio. We've currently got an 8 gigawatt portfolio that comprises offshore wind, onshore wind, solar and battery technology, and that's going to be part of whatever that lower carbon future looks like at Scottish Power. But I think what's more important is how that energy is going to be used. So previously we talked about decarbonisation of the electricity sector. The game changer is how we're going to decarbonise our lives. So it's about decarbonisation of your home, of your workplace, of how you travel and how you commute to and from work, and what you do in your leisure time as well. So fossil fuels have impregnated every single part of our existence to date. That all needs to change, and everything needs to go green with electricity. At Whitelee, we've obviously got an established operational wind farm. We're also on the cusp of bringing our first mega battery into commissioning as well. But to accompany that and make it more of an energy park, we're going to be installing up to 67,000 solar panels at the site that will then power green generation to make green hydrogen. And that's really important that you have got a clean form of hydrogen that can be then used in industrial processes and heavy haulage where electricity might not be the fuel that's required there. So green hydrogen is part of the future of a net zero, lower carbon way of managing those more energy intensive processes. I think COP26 coming to Glasgow is a massive opportunity for Scottish Power Renewables and for Whitelee. I'm looking forward to welcoming delegates that will attend the conference and telling them our story. Scottish Power is a partner of COP26 because we want to be part of supporting others on the journey that we've gone through as a former generator that relied heavily on fossil fuels to somebody who's now 100% green. And that's the story we want to share with others as we've innovated, as we've deployed new technology, invested in new technology, created new products in our retail business and in our networks business, connected it all together, which is the important part so we can get the green energy to homes and businesses all across the country. We can tap into a wonderful environmental, social and economic opportunity by doing more Whitelees, having more investment into this type of generation. It really is a great thing to be part of, and it keeps me interested in my career and going every single day and working with my team.